use to the other people in the world. So that we're not buying the useful stuff, and we could wind up buying a lot more of the not-so-useful stuff. So we will have the gray literature, the expensive research studies, the kind of stuff that is indeed of scholarly value, but is not as likely to be of such scholarly value to others. And the last one, and this is really a hot topic in library. And anybody read the article yesterday about patron-driven acquisitions in the Chronicle of Higher Education? Well, it's made it to the Chronicle. And actually, the person that's featured in the article is the person that had the job I had in the 80s. But what will happen in this model is that the library will not purchase a book until somebody wants it. So this will be called patron-driven acquisitions. And so what the library of the future may do, and I guess I'll say it, Dean Yee and I share this viewpoint, even though we arrived at it independently, is that the academic library of the future could be a heavily used collection, like what's in the undergraduate library, and then access to all of the resources, including Google Books and Amazon. And so when anyone, including students, wants the item, that is the point we get it. So in the past, libraries were big warehouses, and this was called just-in-case purchasing. And now we will get it when you want it, which is called just-in-time. And one of the big reasons for this is the out-of-print book market. Libraries bought materials right away because if they didn't buy them when they were in print, which could be a rather narrow window, the difficulty and the expense of getting them later was very high, because before the internet, you want to sell it, I want to buy it, and there's no way for us to get in touch. And I estimated that the costs of getting in touch were about $25, so that everything was expensive. Now with the internet, you want to sell it, I want to buy it, we both go to the internet, we meet, and so the processing costs of completing the transaction have gone down a whole lot. And so everything is available. And so this would be then that there would be Google Books, there would be Amazon, you could get an electronic version right away. We either have or we have access to the espresso machine, which will print out a good copy in 15 minutes, and we'll give it to you. One of the debatable issues, whether we ask for it back to put somewhere or not, that's not completely decided. It could go either way. And so this is why this has such importance, because this may be in the future the way we build the collection, and we may not be doing it the best way.
Excuse me, doesn't Google Books only make available books that are no longer in copyright?
I'm assuming the settlement's going to happen. It hasn't happened. In fact, we had a session on the Google Book settlement. If Google settlement is approved, they will be able to sell materials under copyright that no one has claimed. And they will put a portion of this money into a fund. And if it turns out that you own the book, you wave your hands, and they will then pay you royalties. But they will be protected from your suing them, so that you won't be able to get the statutory damages that are very high. And so I'm assuming that at some point Google is going to find a way to do it, or if they don't, that's going to require a lot of rethinking on lots of people's part, because Google is really going forward. We had a person from Google that says they seriously want to digitize the 4 billion books that they estimate exist in the world. And their plans are to do it, and I also think they're not doing it just out of the goodness of their heart, and their plans are at some point to make a lot of money out of it. Countermeasures, immediate purchase of e-books, investigate the purchase of e-books in proprietary format. Again, I'm not sure of the mechanisms. If the faculty member sends you a request, give it the fastest possible turnaround time. I think we're a lot better as academic libraries here and collectively than we used to be about quick turnaround time. And that's in part because we can send the orders fast. They can arrive quickly. But I'm a cynic. I don't think really that there are going to be any countermeasures. And I don't think there are going to be any countermeasures because I have to say I think what the faculty members are doing makes sense. That if you can afford it, if for the reasons I gave earlier on, to get the book to own forever, that you can mark up and you never have to turn back or whatever, and very quickly, it makes rational sense as long as you can afford it. It also makes rational sense then to go to the library if you can't afford it. All right. I have a very big worry about patron-driven acquisitions. I will confess that the question I hear all the time are, I'm a library science professor, or I'm a librarian, is, well, our library is going to continue to exist. And what worries me is that the tendency with internet has been to eliminate the middleman wherever possible. And so as I told you about Amazon and the bands and the books, they figure that they can make money and the producers of the information can make as much or more money because the publishers sit in the middle and they're not going to get a cent out of those books. And so the publisher will be eliminated from the process. And I do need to tell you that publishers are worried about this. I will say that publishers provide value. They do useful things. But the question can be at some point whether they provide enough useful things to justify the very high cost of being in the middle. And so what I'm worried about is that at some point somebody is going to look at this process and say, patron-driven acquisitions, let's just give the money. Well, we don't even ask for it. I said that maybe the faculty would ask for it. Why don't we just give the money to the departments and we'll let the departments do what they want to do with the money. And so we'll eliminate the middleman. I'm not sure if you're aware, but there are still some liberal arts colleges where the faculty do the selection, not under the control of the librarian. They get a sum of money at the beginning of the year. They get to spend it however the department wants to spend it, and then the library adds the book to the collections. But this whole issue of the middleman scares me, and is perhaps one of the biggest threats to libraries being a collective storehouse of knowledge. Because while collective is good for the whole, non-collective may be better for the individual, and if the individual has to decide between what's good for me and what's good for the university and the collective, they may decide that the best thing to do is to try to eliminate the middleman. We have about 15 minutes for questions or whatever, because that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your talk. Two questions about the machines, the print-on-demand machines. The espresso machine that you say this university has?
Yeah, we don't have it yet.
Okay, all right. But those espresso machines, when you pay for the right to print, because you have to pay, right? Now, are you paying for every copy printed, or are you paying for the information that you can print on demand?
You would pay for the physical copy. Each physical copy would have a cost.
So the machine would understand that you're printing 10 copies in it.
Okay, the people running the machine, I hope, would understand that there could be a charge for having the right to produce the copy, which could vary. So it depends whether it's in copy. If it's out of copyright, you won't. Okay, if it's out of copyright, you may have to pay something to Google Books for the ability to use it, but you wouldn't.